Caucasian, now we're somehow scary white nationalists. So
no, I agree with you, but let's just be honest. Ice Age thinking or whatever it is, every group has its talent, its skill on average. Everybody's diverse. But it's like, Kenyans are all the top long-distance runners. What is it about Europe that had its own problems that developed so much science, so much Renaissance, and ended slavery and tried to empower women? I think the despots are in competition with the true liberalism of the white male. I mean, not that we're perfect, but I think they're really scared of the fact that we want to, on average, empower people, so they try to focus in on dumbasses.
Well, they've done a very good job of sabotaging, Europeans from within. I mean, the evidence is the birth rate, collapsing demographic birth rate, where people are so demoralized or into hedonism that they don't even want to have children. So that, Italy is at like 1.0 children per white.
Yeah, Italy's the worst. You're right.
So they're going to either.
What a great culture dying. I mean, I'm not Japanese, but they're second to Italy is the worst. I'm so sad the Japanese are fading into history.
But yet the Japanese are at least saying we're going to do it as Japanese. If we can't figure out how robots will take care of our old people, then, but we're not just going to bring in millions of Muslims. That's for.
Yeah, don't you have to hand the Japanese? I mean, when things get worse, they have a lower crime rate. I mean, the Japanese are pretty.
After Fukushima, I mean, it's legendary that you can leave a bicycle on the street or your wallet on the subway. After Fukushima, the equivalent of their Walgreens and Walmarts had to put signs on the doors saying, please take everything you need, because even starving Japanese wouldn't go into a broken drugstore and get out bottled water. I mean, it tells you something about their culture. Now, obviously, World War II, they were fanatical in some very bad ways, but goodness, they do take care of their people, and they're not just going to be, they don't have politicians that will just volunteer to have them genocided by Islamist maniacs coming in.
Well, that's right. Japan will not let one Islamic in.
Yeah, and, as far as going back, I want to get this out. If we're going to now be called white nationalists, if Steve Bannon, they're going to keep showing Steve Bannon and you and next to the worst of these, marginal, nobody ever heard of them until the mainstream media.
I never heard of this guy they're saying I'm best buddies with.
Right. So I say that the mainstream media talking heads, all of them, the Democrats, I have a new term for them. PIS, Progressive International Socialists. If they can not only call us nationalists, which I'll wear that proudly, I'm a national populist. I'm a patriot, a patriotic American. If they're going to turn that into somehow I'm a racist because my skin's white, that means I must be a white nationalist. I say take the gloves off. You said, what can we do? Well, we don't want to get in their face and turn it into a shooting war, at least not before December 19th or January. But I say let's not play their game of using their terminology. I call Brian Williams, Rachel Maddow, all of them. They're international socialists. If they hate me for being a patriotic American nationalist, then I say, screw you, pal. You're an international socialist, which is just the overt, polite form of saying you're a communist. If you go to Fidel's funeral, you're a communist. You know what he did, and you're going to go and honor him. You're a communist.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, they're demonizing. They're demonizing. Sure, we're going to skip this break. They're demonizing Trump for doing nothing, and then Fidel Castro is a mass murderer. I mean, if I killed one person in cold blood, I would expect my family would disown me. The guy killed hundreds of thousands, robbed. I mean, folks, I've studied history. Cuba was like more wealthy than Florida or Texas. It had the biggest middle class except for Argentina or Venezuela. There were three rich hubs in the Caribbean and in Central and South America. It was Argentina, Cuba, and Venezuela. And all those places are socialist hellholes now with just total collapse because the elites wanted to get rid of the middle class. And Cuba had a big, fat, juicy middle class. They were successful. They were, but they got a lot of poor people pissed, going, "Hey, look, somebody's got a nice car. You would have got a car the next year, dummy. Oh, look, these rich casino owners are making money. These hotel owners, these foreign, Yankee pigs are here investing. Yeah, of course, it's a frickin' nice country." And now, what do you have? 60 years later, a hellhole, and it's so sad. But don't worry, we're under the same attack. And I just feel so sorry because there was a saying 60 years ago, as rich as an Argentine or as rich as a Venezuelan, or they even say in the 50s, is, those rich Cubans. Because the average American was in a 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom if they were lucky, if they were middle class. And then the Cubans had better than that. It's all gone.
And our liberal media helped to install these dictators. Whether it was New York Times, Durante being a stooge for Stalin.
The New York Times, the Washington Post talked about Fidel like he was a rock star.
Like they did about Stalin during the Ukraine Holodomor genocide, the starvation genocide. They knew about what was going on, and they were saying, "Oh, I've seen the future."
Yeah, but see, Matt Taibbi doesn't know about that genocide, or doesn't know about the Armenian genocide. He just foppishly walks real slow and goes, "Oh, liberal. Oh, I had a coffee. Oh, liberal." How do you counter the fake pseudo-intellectualism? Because, I mean, I study all the time. I can tell talking to you, you've done major study, so we're on the same field here. I talk to a fake or a fop, and I talk to a liberal. They don't know anything. Even their top people just go, "Oh, yeah, right, sure, racist." And I'm like,
well,
hey,
we have a great opening. There's a great opportunity here, and I think that we've already maybe passed the high water mark for liberalism, and now the tide's going our way, running our way, because these kids that have only learned history from Howard Zinn textbooks, evil America invented slavery, that false history, they are ripe to have their eyes opened. They don't know about Che Guevara except that he's got a cool T-shirt. So Did
you know he wrote 2 books? I personally even ordered one of the ones in Spanish where he calls black people animals and where he says Mexicans are dumb cockroaches.
Lazy. And
lazy cockroaches. So you've read that.
Yeah, there's a big opportunity.
But see how weird it is? I can converse with you and you know what Che Guevara really said. I tell some weird little commie kid wearing it, they just laugh at me. I mean,
Well, you won't be able to get them all, but I think that one good approach is Dennis Prager, another great talk host. He's got something called Prager University.
It's excellent. I want to get Dennis Prager on, by the way.
They're 5 minutes. They're just like 5-minute episodes. So there are 5-minute teachable lessons that make the best points possible, with simple graphics. So there are millions of people out there right now that are wondering, like, what is this argument about Fidel Castro? I know they got funky old cars in Havana. Why is that? But they've never heard that they had walls where people were just taken out and shot night after night. They'd never heard that. So there is an opportunity to undo the learning. There's a good thing about these snowflakes is that they're empty vessels. The first message whispered into their ear was the false Howard Zinn.
No, I agree. And,
they can be re-educated very quickly with the truth, very quickly.
Yeah, they're just so entitled and so whacked out. I want to go to some phone calls now. We're talking to Matt Bracken of enemiesforeigndomestic.com, Alex Jones with Infowars.com. We're sitting here talking. We've got 53 days till the inauguration in January 20th. We've got the Democrats and Hillary trying to overthrow the election, even though she pledged she believed Trump won. That's because she'd stolen 5 states and still failed. But notice Jill Stein is not auditing those states that she won. This is outrageous, and it shows they're setting the precedent for riots. All they're waiting for, as Mr. Bracken said, is for somebody to shoot a crowd of Black Lives Matter people. And I think cities burn all over the country.
That's what they're hoping for.
So let's quantify this. I'm going to take a call before we go to break and come back and take calls. If you're sitting there as Soros right now, I mean, I'm 42, and I'm smarter business-wise, knowledge-wise, but I mean, I'm tired. I can't imagine being 87 or 89 like Soros, and I catch he's at meetings all over the world. He's involved in everything. Where does this energy come from? And, I mean, what is going on with this guy? It's like, what the hell's happening here?
I think that he wants to be considered one of the key figures in all of history, in a history book that shows, Hitler, Lenin, Stalin, whether you think they're evil or whether you think they, made the Autobahns or, whatever they did that was, they built canals where millions were killed to build the White Sea Canal. It doesn't matter. If you're in the history book, that's what drives some people.
So it's a selfishness. It's pissing on the world.
just like a mass murderer at a very small, granular level, somebody that, takes a rifle and goes up on a building, he's trying to beat the last death count so that people will remember his name, even if he's dead.
So it's a true narcissistic, psychopathic mental illness.
But at the very top level, I think that what drives George Soros is that, he knows he's going to die, and I think that he believes he's just worm food after that. The thought that comforts him is that every history of the 20th and 21st century, he is going to be a key figure. When they show the pictures of the presidents and of dictators, they will also show and have a chapter on George Soros. And that, I think, is what motivates him. It's not making more money. It's not staying alive.
No, I agree. And it's twisted. True human power is about telegraphing knowledge forward to help others, not out of arrogance, but out of love and a wish to be with those before you, currently, and after you. That's true human spirit. He wants to take that and twist it.
When you watch the video where he was very candid about his youth
he laughed about it. He said, "I'm proud of helping the Nazis,"
and didn't feel any. So there was something happened. Something scarred him in his youth that took out empathy and replaced it with something cold and calculating.
He said, "I won by helping the Nazis, and I'm going to go on winning."
Right. So
he would have won by killing 10 of them and not being a piece of filth.
If he hadn't have been damaged psychologically in some way, that I forget which of the Anthony Hopkins movie Hannibal. There's the early scene where he's a child, and he's watching horrors. I think that some people come out of trauma at the correct age. If you're pushed into a lake as a 3-year-old, believe me, you're never going to want to go swimming for the rest of your life. If a big spider bites you when you're an infant, you're going to have spider phobia. So I think it's very possible that whatever happened to George Soros in Eastern Europe set him on the path that he's been on his entire life. And part of it is, it's just evil, satanic, diabolical, but it might just be explained in psychological terms.
That's right. We're going to break in 1 minute, coming back with call after call. Mark, Chris, Howard, Andrew, Jim, we're going right to the break. What do you make of the WikiLeaks and all the clear pedophile code words? I mean, I'm looking at this. It's clearly pedophile code words. I mean, what the hell's going on there?
I thought that what had happened in Belgium and that area like 20, 25 years ago, I thought that was an aberration. But apparently when you get into the upper levels of evil, the evil power, it seems to go towards this ritualistic pedophilia rings. It's just pretty disgusting. But when you look at some of these characters that are around Hillary, you have to wonder what kind of evil is there. I mean, Huma Abedin from age 19, a 19-year-old intern has become her body companion. She's the one that's in the bedroom. She's the one that is never away from her side. From age 19.
And of course, she's a Muslim. We'll be right back with your phone call straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. The website for our guest is a very important website, enemiesforeignanddomestic.com. Stay with us. It's an incredible time to be alive right now, and history's happening in front of our eyes.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Pizzagate. More information is unfolding, but here's what we know. There's some creepy, unexplained emails within the WikiLeaks dump that indict John Podesta, his brother Tony, and James Alefantis. Now, the mainstream media, instead of asking questions, the same ones that we would ask here at InfoWars, they've taken it upon themselves to indict the, quote, fake media. They have an article up on their website entitled Fake News Onslaught Targets Pizzeria as a Nest of Child Trafficking. They go on to say, quote, days before the presidential election, James Alefantis, owner of a local pizza restaurant called Comet Ping Pong, noticed an unusual spike in the number of his Instagram followers. Within hours, menacing messages like, "We're on to you," began appearing in his Instagram feed. In the ensuing days, hundreds of death threats, one read, "I will kill you personally," started arriving via Facebook and Twitter. So instead of addressing the creepy messages, they've taken it upon themselves to become an advocate for one person indicted in those emails. I'm Margaret Howell reporting for Infowars.com.
Please listen carefully, because I'm about to point out 3 things that will save you a lot of money while you get high-quality products and fund the info war. A 360 win. Number 1, when you choose auto ship before checkout, we give you 10% off on your order at InfoWarsStore.com. Number 2, you're also able to get items that are out of stock when you sign up for auto ship, because we hold back a surplus for auto ship customers. Number 3, we're giving you free shipping on all orders above $50. Listeners have been requesting this for years because it's so easy to forget to reorder the products that you need each month. Just go to InfoWarsStore.com, select your favorite product or products, click on auto ship, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. As you know, I coined the term 360 win, and with the new auto ship feature at InfoWarsLife.com, this is a sure win. 10% off on auto ship. Win, win, win at InfoWarsLife.com. Free shipping on orders above $50. And all out-of-stock items are never out of stock when you sign up for auto ship. I want to tell you about a brand new off-the-grid product. It's a pocket-sized solar generator. Even though it's so small you can put it in your pocket, it can actually run some 110 appliances at your house, like small refrigerators, to keep your food from spoiling. The best part, though, you can take it with you. It's mobile to jumpstart cars, trucks, buses, 18-wheelers, huge tractors, even airplanes. The new PPX system provides an endless supply of off-the-grid electricity, basically creating your own private power grid anywhere in the world. A true innovation. I have never seen anything like this. You're going to want to load up on these. One for your truck, your wife's car, your house, cabin. It's even a great Christmas idea if you've got a friend who wants to get off the grid. Go to privatepowergrid.com. That's privatepowergrid.com. And check this out. Buy one right now. Use coupon code PRIVATE at checkout and get a second one free, along with $300 in free off-the-grid bonuses. Check it out. privatepowergrid.com. Limited one per household. privatepowergrid.com.
He aligns himself with the truth, and it's time for you to choose a side. You're listening to Alex Jones.
Look, I made the film Endgame 9 years ago. I showed hundreds of quotes, video clips of global elite admitting they treat us like creatures in a petri dish. They're manipulating us. They're playing games with us. And all I'm saying is, I don't like this, and I want to change it. I want to turn this around. I'll go to your phone calls right now. I'm not going to belabor this. We're running the biggest specials so far of the year during the Cyber Monday. All the Black Friday specials are extended. 50% off colloidal silver, silver bullet, 30% off Super Male Vitality. There's a whole bunch of specials, 40% off high-quality storable foods. Free shipping with the promo code on top of it, free, F-R-E-E, InfoWarsStore.com. And that's what makes the broadcast possible. I've noticed that one of the main establishment attacks was, oh my gosh, they sell stuff. Yeah, we don't have Mercedes-Benz as sponsors. We don't have Barnes & Noble as sponsors. We have some sponsors on the network, and we have some sponsors as well. That pays about 30% of it. We direct sell products. And so that's how we fund this operation. So we couldn't do it without you. You see the big effects we're having. You see us all over the news being attacked. It's because we're effective, and the enemy knows we're having a big effect. So thank you all for the support. InfoWarsStore.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. And as I said, whatever's going on in Central Texas, it's kind of like that movie, The Happening, I think is the name of it, where the trees release the pollen and kill everybody. I used to think when I was in high school that friends of mine that didn't go to two-a-days and so they had allergies were hypochondriacs. I thought it was fake. My allergies have gotten a lot better as I've lost some weight and stuff, but right now, half the office is sick or more and out. This is legendary. I mean, it feels like my lungs have a bucket of fire ants in them right now. So I'm not trying to talk all deep and cool here with you. In fact, I'm using it on my bedside. This is not a plug. Somebody run me in some, got taken away some lung cleanse. I haven't thought of that. That's what helps me at night sleep. A bunch of essential oils. Yeah, they sell stuff for like $20. It's like menthol and a couple other things. This is dozens of essential oils. The only problem is it's so thick, you got to, every other time you use it, wash out the sprayer tip because it's so thick, it will not spray through it. Thank you. So this is a new package of it. I need to take this home because I've had a package for about 6 months. I haven't really gone through it yet, but it's almost empty. This is the ultimate lung cleanse. thing out there about we are under such assault, all the GMO, the glyphosates, all the rest of it, and I wanted to be on air today, so I apologize, but we'll see how that does, because let me tell you, it is fun. Now, getting back to Matt Bracken of enemiesforeignanddomestic.com, I want to go to your phone calls right now and take your questions and comments, but I feel guilty that I'm not able to get excited enough and upset enough, Matt, about Hillary wanting a recount, the Black Lives Matter running around groups calling for cops being killed. They're shooting them almost every day dead. And the media, even CNN's like, well, they're cops. They deserve to die. It's their job. The random killing of people is such an authoritarian thing.
Well, I think they're just pulling out all the stops. I'm very I'd like to say you know, in my youth I was a Navy SEAL, not career, but you know, when I was you know, junior officer. I couldn't be a cop for 2 weeks, I guarantee you. I mean, I'd absolutely lose my mind. I'd go into some house and see child abuse going on, and I would flip out. So how you can be a social worker and carry a gun at the same time is something that I couldn't juggle personally.
I totally agree. Just watching it and covering it drives me crazy. I
couldn't do it. So how you can expect to make a, you know, nanosecond decision, life or death, and they're going to dissect that nanosecond into a billion micro nanoseconds and hang you on it, when day in and day out, you know, you're seeing motor vehicle accidents, you know, you're seeing domestic abuse situations and elder abuse and child abuse, and to be able to keep a serenity inside and not go home and be a psycho in your own house to your own children. So I give all honor and respect to law enforcement that can juggle all of that and balance all of that, because I know within my own heart and my own soul, I wouldn't last two weeks as a cop at any level. I couldn't do it.
Matt, that's well said.
I couldn't carry that job. I couldn't do it. So God bless the police. Without them, you know, there was a famous incident in Montreal, Canada, about 30 years ago, maybe it was in the 70s, where the police went on strike, and immediately every jewelry store was hit. You know, as soon as the criminals figured out this was for real, the police have gone on strike. It was complete mayhem, immediate. So there are, you know, thousands, even millions of predators out there without any morals or scruples or conscience, that if they knew that the police were out of the way, they would absolutely wreak havoc on society. And that, I think, is part of the whole deal with this cabal between Soros, the propaganda media, and the Democrat Party, is to break the morale of the police. Just get them to either stay in their patrol cars, you know, hide behind Dunkin' Donuts, don't get out there and mix it up, don't do your job, just basically demoralize law enforcement. And I think that's...
I agree, but hasn't it backfired? Hasn't it backfired?
I hope so, but it remains to be seen. It certainly isn't going to help minority neighborhoods if the police won't go in there, because then you're just handing over control to the gangs completely. So, I mean, yeah, obviously there are bad cops, and obviously some cops go on a power trip, and maybe some people come into law enforcement because they've got like a latent power urge to be a bully sort of thing. But I don't think by far most cops, I believe.
Sure, by far, though.
They want to be the sheepdog.
Cops aren't where, I agree, cops aren't where the revolution happens. And the fact that Soros and the mainstream media want to make that the main focal point, we can deal with the cops that have problems. The issue is that this is an attempt to destabilize the whole country. Mark in California, you're on the air with Mr. Bracken. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having Matt on KOMY 1540. I really appreciate that. You know, Matt and Alex, when we think about King Cyrus, he's much more than a king, because this is he of whom it is written, behold, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple thy foundation shall be laid. And when Trump came out and just was honest about Castro, I can't tell you what that did for me. You know, all these lying commies, talking about how great the man was. He's a despicable communist, and he's going to go to hell on Judgment Day. And when we think about how Trump has appointed these guys, I mean, think about it. We've gone from Eric Holder, who says we have to, quote, brainwash them to hate guns. And what's her name, Loretta Lynch, for Attorney General, that after, San Bernardino happened, she says, we'll prosecute you to the full extent of the law if you speak against Muhammad, to Jeff Sessions. And we need to pray for Jeff and pray that God will fight with outstretched arm, against Chucky Schumer and such. And, because this is really exciting. This is exciting. This is God. It's the
I agree. And the enemy is crapping themselves and is planning something in the next 53 days. Thank you, Mark. Comments on that,
This is a civil war. This is a civil war. We are in a civil war. Make no mistake. It's not at the shooting in streets phase of a civil war, but believe me, like he put his finger right on it. Holder and Lynch, and then Jeff Sessions, this Jay Johnson, and then General Flynn. This is tectonic. This is Richter scale 12.
It's opposites.
It is opposites, and they're not going to just quit.
Let me ask you this, because obviously none of us could war game this and know how it's going to go. But hypothetically, we're not calling for this. If they suspend things, say Trump lost, let's say they kill Trump, say, oh, he's died in a helicopter crash, Hillary's coming in or whoever, and announce that we're shutting down, the fake press, that's us. They're going to arrest us. We're not looking for trouble, but when folks try to pull up and take us off to the re-education center, I guess all bets are off. I just want to make sure, because it won't do anything. The foolish cops or anybody else, the young military officers, how do we get around them to the real targets?
There aren't enough. There aren't enough, especially the fleas, the federal law enforcement agents. There just aren't enough. The math doesn't work. All of the power of the state could barely get to Louisiana after Katrina. And
no, I agree. So why are they so arrogant? Because they've taken our restraint as weakness when there are like millions of veterans, many of which I know, that aren't looking for trouble. They're not scared to die. They are ready to just dominate. And I don't think. Not
only that, I would recommend people read some of my essays, like the Civil War II Cube, which is sort of like a Rubik's Cube showing the demographic, cultural, and geographical axes that the Civil War will be fought on, or my other essay, When the Music Stops, How America's Cities May Explode in Violence. If you look at the red-blue county map, most of the food grows in the red counties. Most of the energy comes out of the ground in the red counties.
I was about to say, we have 90% geographically. In military nomenclature, isn't that total dominance?
Well, and they say, well, we have more people, we won the popular vote. A lot of people is not an advantage if you can't feed them. A lot of people is a tremendous.
No, it's true. The communists and the globalists want to play this capitulation game. I'm not looking for this, but if they want to take the gloves off, don't they in a bare knuckles fight, we kick their ass?
Well, if you look at the Russian Revolution, when the Russians came home from World War I, they were carrying Mosin Nagant rifles and swords and pistols, revolvers. But they were disarmed very quickly by the communists.
They ordered it, the people turned them in.
That's right.
That's not going to happen this time.
But then they could go out in the countryside and they could literally steal the food from farmers, leave nothing in the Ukraine, take the grain from the Ukraine and leave the Ukrainians to starve. That would absolutely not work in the United States of America. The other big factor is our agriculture now is big mass industrial agriculture. It's not a family farm. So if the transportation infrastructure breaks down and there's no oil and fertilizer going out to the farms, then there's no food going anywhere.
And the power will be in the small, self-sufficient family farms.
That's right. So it'll be a starvation.
So I'm not looking for trouble, but if they want to push this, into a hot war, they're entering our briar patch.
And in the last occasions that we could use as references of the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution, they were able to harness and militarize the urban population, go out into the countryside with guillotines and execution squads in Russia, and take the food by force. They would never be able to take the food by force in this country. It would be a suicide mission for
every good old boy, and I don't care what color they are, isn't looking for trouble. They are locked and loaded and ready to kill.
And forget about the AR-15 so-called assault rifles. Yeah, that's interesting. They're fun to plink on steel
50
with.
cals everywhere.
It's just the basic Remington 700 30-06 with the cheap Bushnell scope on top. That's a 500-yard rifle.
Everybody's got that.
Millions of them. There's millions of them.
Can you imagine if they try to march a communist army of pot-bellied dumbasses in against us? What'll happen?
Well, at the first bridge, it would just be a choke point, and after that, it would be impassable. Because somebody laying in a culvert 500 yards from the bridge will be able to stop anybody. There just aren't enough drones and helicopters to play, some kind of video game war where they go out and.
No, I agree. I hear from the leftists, their favorite statement is, "We got drones, we'll kill you." Look, we're not looking for a war, dumbasses. But if you physically want to start one, you really have no idea what you're dealing with.
And who do they think the drone operators are? They're military, and they're 90% on our side. They come from the red counties, so believe me, it would be a starvation event for the entire country. But the cities would absolutely implode into cannibalism.
We've killed 55 million babies. Maybe we deserve that. Let's take a call from Chris in Virginia. You're on the air. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it seems like to me that you're a pretty bright person and thorough with your research. So I was wondering if you picked a long time ago the battle that you was going to fight, to go after the globalists and go that route and expose them, as opposed to going after them Satanists, which I believe is the real issue.
It's the same people.
It's the same people. It's the
Listen,
same people.
we took over the Republican Party with Trump. I mean, we mean to win. Everybody doesn't realize the power of the individual. I'm not here on some power trip, but I mean, I talk to the president. I talk to everybody else, generals, you name it. The people, they care. They're waiting for leadership, too. The fact that we amassed this huge audience has given them the power. And I don't say that to brag, but let me tell you something, InfoWars, you, the listeners, you are what gives them the power to do this that's happening now, my friend.
And it's not a question of us choosing the time. Eventually, I mean, we're sort of like racing towards the edge of a plateau where there's a cliff, like in Indiana Jones or the Flight of the
Exactly.
Phoenix.
We don't want this event horizon. We've been pushed into this.
It's coming anyway. It's like what Trotsky said, you may not be interested in war, but war is interested in you. And like it or not, eventually, the global financial structure, which is a house of cards soaked in gasoline, eventually that's going to implode. The ATMs are not going to work. The EBT system is not going to work. The credit cards aren't going to work. And a week after that, our cities will not be recognized.
And whether you're rich or poor, that affects you the same way. Exactly. And I take it, Matt Bracken, in the last 5 years, we reported it before anybody else did, but it's now admitted, the elite going to armored redoubts all over the world, hiring huge security teams, who are my listeners, who are ready to turn on them in an instant. That seems to be their Achilles heel. They're already evacuating. That shows they've already lost.
Right. A plan to ride a tiger is not the same as riding a tiger. So, when this house of cards burns down, it's going to burn.
Well, Matt, do they have any idea how much the Blackwater and all the other folks that on average are good people that are guarding them, how much they hate them? I talk to these folks. I don't think they have any idea that they think they've got a 50-man team guarding them in New Zealand. They have no idea. Those guys are just waiting.
I know somebody that works in your neck of the woods up in Amarillo at Pantex, and he's a ex-special operations guy who now makes high dollar for unscrewing nukes and putting them back together. And he tells the security guards inside of the locked facility, "Thanks for carrying my gun until I need it." And that's how the Blackwater guys look at their so-called employers. "Thanks for letting me drive your armored Mercedes until I need it." Because you'll be on the curb at best.
I know, they're so stupid. They're sitting there in armored redoubts with 50 killers.
Right.
And these guys have no respect for them because they're traitors. Do they have any idea they're just sharpening their knives, just waiting?
And imagine if the traitors that they're guarding are, abusing children around the swimming pool while the Blackwater guys are watching. They're not happy about it, believe me. The Blackwater guys have a plan to bring their own families to the redoubt after they, get rid of their so-called bosses.
I know.
They should know that.
They are so freaking stupid, aren't they?
They are. Absolutely.
Skip this break. Let's go to more calls. Did I just talk to Chris or did I just talk to John? All right, Howard in Arkansas. You're on the air.
Yes. Hello, Alex. Hello, Matt.
Thanks. Hi.
Yeah, your phone's breaking up, Howard. Go ahead. Yeah, we're going to move on. You're having phone trouble. Andrew in Minnesota. You're on the air. Andrew, go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I had just a couple of quick points, if I could. One is that I think you would agree that language can be very powerful. And, when you talk about illegal aliens voting in our elections and everything, it just seems to roll off people's backs. But, there are also Mexican citizens. So I think it would garner more outrage if we were saying Mexican citizens are voting in our elections and Mexican citizens are draining our government resources and things like that. It changed the perspective I think a lot of people have.
No, I agree. And it's not that we're against the Mexicans. It's that they wouldn't let us engage in that. And this is a joke. That is going on. Democrats everywhere are passing laws that let illegals vote. And they say Trump is a conspiracy theorist to say 3 million illegals were on the voting rolls. They were.
Right. They give them the voter card with their their driver's license. I also think that it's very immoral for us to let Carlos Slim and these Mexican billionaires to let them just push the poor and the poorest people out of their country to go to America to send checks back. I say send those people back to Mexico now that they've had a taste of freedom and opportunity. Send them back to Mexico with an instruction for a revolution for a true free market in Mexico, and not this crony oligarch kind of a system that they have perpetuated. And I'd also want to see Trump start building this wall very fast, because that will be a visual galvanizing experience. After 30 years of hearing politicians talk about protecting that fence, that wall, or excuse me, even building any kind of a barrier, virtual fences, drones that never take off. When we actually see a fence being built from the Gulf of Mexico to San Diego, it's going to be galvanizing. It's going to mean this is for real. I think that's when we will see self-deportation, a lot of self-deportation.
Yeah, exactly. All we care about is the criminals self-deporting. It's that they're meant to be brought here, the Democratic Party operatives. Thank you, Andrew.
And I bear them no ill will, and I wish that they go back to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico and force their leaders to be responsible to the entire country and not just use America as their safety blow-off valve.
Jim in Georgia, you're on the air.
Hello, Alex. This is Jim down here in Georgia. Say, I spent my time in the military. I did 6 years in the infantry, got out back in 83. In 1988, I started getting involved in the local militia up in Wisconsin, where I was from originally. In 1994, actually spring of 95, a manual came into the possession of our company commander, who had he was a Vietnam vet with some black ops in Northern Africa, and I believe it was one of his friends from the inside that might have gotten it to him, but it's called an FM 4110, a military civil affairs operations manual. It says on the cover, it doesn't say classified or top secret, but it does say on the cover, destruction notice, destroyed by any method that will prevent disclosure or reproduction of this document. Well, they failed in their mission because this man ran a couple hundred copies, and I got the first one off the press. But that was about the only one that got released. It may have been 2 or 3 others, because it wasn't long after that his log cabin burnt down in the middle of the night. Luckily, the dog woke up his son.
Okay, well, I happen to pretty much know everything about that kind of stuff, so tell me what it supposedly says.
You know the 4110. All right, we disclosed it to the Milwaukee Sentinel-Journal in 1995.
Sure, so what did it say?
All right, in this manual, the military made the statement to the paper that yes, there is such manual. It was developed only for use in foreign countries during times of war. Well, it talks in here about guest troops coming to host nations to quell civil disturbances and other major problems, and it's implemented after a martial law. I find it funny that they'd say it was for foreign countries, because in my copy it has a map of the continental United States broken into...
Sure, let me bring this up. I don't know about the particular thing you're mentioning, but I've read the Washington Post, Toronto Star on Air about 12, 14 years ago, where they said, we'll use Mexican and Canadian troops to quell terrorism and civil disobedience in America. That's actually in my film, Police State 2, The Takeover. So I know I've read those plans, very, very bold plans. Let's get Matt Brackett's take on that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that manual. I've seen other manuals talking about civil affairs, which clearly show plans setting up, detention camps and things like that are pretty scary. But like I always say,
that's the civilian inmate labor camp program. That's admitted, yeah.
But a plan to ride a tiger is not the same as riding a tiger. Anybody, talk is cheap and manuals are cheap, but they got to remember that the people that they're depending on, it's just like the Blackwater guards for these elites in their redoubts and retreats. The people that they think are going to be rounding us up are us. It's not going to work. What I could much more likely see.
By the way, let me ask you this, and then continue. Would you say 90% of actual trained troops, special forces people, operators are patriots, just because that's the type of folks they are?
Well, you have to distinguish between combat arms and some logistics and support. A lot of the bases that I've been on, it almost seems like a welfare program has been instituted in the last 20 years.
Sure, but I mean, all the real people that actually put themselves in line
the
for
war
death.
Fighters,
the war fighters seem to all be dialed into freedom.
Yes, they are, and they're very much so. And it's very rare to meet a war fighter who is a liberal. Although I will say that both Petraeus and McChrystal are on record as being against civilians owning semi-automatic rifles, which worries me a lot. But they're just, the higher up that they go, it seems like they select for sycophancy and for go along to get along.
Smoke the dope.
Right, they want to become a member.
Sure. So
of the
what
elite.
number? What 95% though? Warfighters are patriots.
Of combat arms of 04, major and lieutenant commander and below, I would say 90% are patriots in that way, and they definitely believe in the Constitution and defending it against all enemies, foreign
and they're not
domestic.
afraid to kill people. That's what folks you understand.
And if they're told they're to take these 10 buses from the base to go to some subdivision and round everybody up, the people who give that orders are much more likely to be hanged from the flagpole than those buses go out and
let's say the first roundup, maybe they don't hang, but once they see families mowed down, then it's over.
It's over, and the people that would be going along with any orders, and I'm going to be nonpartisan in this case. If it was, no matter who said we're going to go round up the Jews, the Muslims, the blacks, I don't care. It wouldn't go down. It wouldn't be successful. The people giving those orders would be hung. They should know that. That's why I say it. They should know that.
Well, powerful interview, Matt Bracken, enemiesforeignanddomestic.com. I'm going to come back and hand the baton to David Knight. Thank you for so much insight. We really appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me on, Alex.
You've had a very important interview. Stay with us. 4th hour straight ahead.
This is GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
You think our information's hardcore? You think our focus is brutal? Try our nutraceuticals. Try our supplements. We've taken Brain Force and made it Brain Force Plus. Now with 20% more in the bottle and an even more hardcore formula. You owe it to yourself to get these products. They really have worked for myself, my family. They have 5-star reviews by the thousands. Secure your Brain Force Plus today at InfoWarsLife.com. Now 20% stronger. Again, InfoWarsLife.com. It's Black Friday week, a chance to get amazing, one-of-a-kind, game-changing products that also support our fight against the New World Order at 360WIN at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. And again, thank you for funding the true tip of the spear and the fight for human liberty. We could not have done it without you, and I want to salute you for your support, your prayers, the action you've taken. Every race, color, and creed, we are all red-blooded humans together, and I love you.
You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Deeper into this thing, they realize it's far from what they thought it'd be. Now they're fighting for their lives. That makes the enemy even more dangerous now. They're not just operating on hubris. As I've said many times, wild horses couldn't drag me away from what I'm doing here today. I'm not trying to talk like some guy from a wolf playing Chiliad. My lungs are pretty infected today. But as I said, wild horses couldn't drag me away. I just look at the offense of a culture that makes women wear hoods over their heads and cuts their genitals off and then floods our country with it. Paul Watson, Infowars.com. Canada celebrates hijab-wearing news anchor while Christians on the same network are banned from wearing crosses. And then you hear about a machete attack, but the news is saying it's a gun attack. That's how controlled the press is. So I got upset about that. And then sure enough, it was a jihadi from Somalia. In my own life, I don't need to blame some group or hate some group to feel good about myself. The fact that Muslims are, on average, so oppressed and so backwards makes me feel sorry for them. But I can't be told that I'm some backwards guy that hates women when all I do is spoil women. I can't sit here and listen to lies anymore. I can't go along with this BS anymore. I've had dinners with these pseudo-intellectual, big newspaper reporters, liberal icons. They're like middle midgets. It's like, how the hell are you ruling over us? But it's because the power structure put them in power because they're bent dick bastards. They're not straight shooters. These people put me anywhere in a fight. Half of them don't know who their daddy is. I don't mean that mean to folks don't know who their daddy is, but knowing who your daddy is a lot bigger than knowing who your daddy is. They don't stand for anything except screwing people over. They're the most unhappy, miserable people I could ever imagine. And I think in this great animating contest of liberty, the most important thing I could ever transmit to anybody is that we not be part of these people. God, they're a joke. I want to play this clip, though, of the jihad training, because we're bringing people in from third world countries that oppress their own people, and they're being brought here as cultural detonators. Imagine a woman can't wear a cross on CNN, but this woman can wear that all arrogantly in her little Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, I'm not going to go along with her. Here's a clip.
Not the time come to defend the Muslims? Has not the time come to avenge the bereaved woman? Has not the time come to seek revenge for the imprisoned? So wage jihad, fight for your religion, your soul, your honor, before you shout in regret, if only I acted when I had the opportunity.
I'd like to spit some beach nut in that dude's eye and shoot him with my old 45. I love how he was using the anti-Nazi refrain. God, what a piece of work. What a cult of scum. All right, David Knight's coming up. I want to thank you all for your support, your prayers. InfoWars is the tip of the spear. God, I never asked for this. I guess I did ask for it, but never knew it would happen. Appreciate the great crew and all the work they're doing. I'll be back tomorrow, Lord willing, 11 a.m. Central. David Knight is coming up from the studio about 30 feet from me. He'll be locked and loaded and ready. Stay with us and spread the word because they hate this broadcast. But there was an article last Friday in Hollywood Reporter that is so important, where Steve Bannon, the chief strategist for President-elect Trump, lays it out that globalism was designed to make us poor and set up this elite system for rich families to control everything, and that America is going to absolutely now lead the world out of this with incredible prosperity, and they have the actuaries and the numbers with cutting taxes on working class people that will bring back Americana under the Republican Party. But he says we've got to purge the Republicans of the establishment people, and we've got to deliver to the people, and we will get a majority vote from whites, Hispanics, blacks, you name it.
because it'll be based on having a sovereign, prosperous nation, not one where the government takes the wealth from the middle class and then redistributes it to a growing, dumbed-down, giant underpopulation made up of every race of human. If you want human liberty, if you want freedom, if you want self-determination, if you want to be able to control at least a small part of your own destiny, we are brothers, we are sisters in arms together in the great quest for free association, free will, and the right for self-determination. I salute you, and again, thank you for taking the info war, which you are the heart of, to the next level, and to encourage you to continue right through this Thanksgiving, to share the information with your friends and family, to share the articles, the videos, the URLs, the podcast, and to support the broadcast by getting the amazing pro-Second Amendment apparel, the pro-Trump apparel, the pro-nationalism apparel, the non-GMO heirloom seeds, the high-quality water filtration systems, the amazing supplements and nutraceuticals, which are running 30 to 50% off right through this week, with every day having a loss leader special at InfoWarsStore.com. Check it out today, and please continue to support this operation.
We have an article up on our website at Infowars.com that talks about how one Italian minister is going to throw his citizens in jail if they don't open up their homes to migrants. Now, this article was written by Chris Manahan of Information Liberation, and it addresses how one Italian minister of Interior, Angelina Alfano, is planning to throw his citizens in prison if they don't hand over their homes to migrants. This report coming out of an Italian paper, coming just 2 weeks after a shocking video goes viral that showed an 80-year-old Italian businessman being forced by the state to house African migrants in his hotel. Now, we learned this news today that the plan is slated to go through in hyperdrive come December. The government is keeping it secret so that no one will sway the upcoming referendum, which could lead to ousting their current pro-migrant invasion prime minister. Well, this news comes amid the holidays, and we understand that there is an invasion going on in Europe right now, and it looks like the Italian government is saying, look, you house these migrants or you're facing jail time. I'm Margaret Hell reporting for Infowars.com.
Waging war on corruption. It's Alex Jones coming to you live from the front lines of the info war.
Welcome back to the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show on this Monday, November 28th, 2016. Cyber Monday, if you're paying any attention to the sales and the specials that have started on Thanksgiving this year. A lot of optimism we see in these sales figures as people are looking forward to a change of events, a new deal, an environment that is going to put the economy first. And, of course, I think that was the key thing. I think Donald Trump didn't stress it as much as he could have, but people understood that what this was about was the economy. And I think that was really a major part of the win for Donald Trump, to understand that he was going to do things, as we saw with the Thanksgiving weekend, to tackle Carrier air conditioning and say, don't move your factory to Mexico. Let me tell you why. We don't know what he said to them. Maybe he said, you're going to find that it isn't really going to work out for you if you do that, because it's not going to give you a price advantage. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't know what he did, but hopefully that is in play. And we see that type of thing. And at the same time, as I tweeted out, it says, amazing contrast between Obama and Hillary Clinton, who bragged about how they were going to take jobs, how they were going to shut down entire industries, how they were going to starve us of energy, how they were going to shut off our air conditioning even. We just had John Kerry, middle of September, saying, yeah, we're going to cap your air conditioning usage, and then we're going to start reducing it right away. No, you're not. From my cold, dead hands. And so now there's optimism. We've got, it looks like we're going to have somebody who is friendly to our economic activities, who wants us to have air conditioning and things like that. So I think there's a lot of optimism that we're seeing in these figures. And, of course, we have a lot of sales at InfoWars as well. From Black Friday to Cyber Monday, we've got several sales at InfoWarsLife.com. Some of those 50% off a silver bullet at InfoWarsLife.com, 30% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com. Also, we have Black Friday specials that we've extended through today. 30 to 40% off all InfoWars Select Storable Food, and 30% off Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. All of those are key ingredients for your preparedness as well as for your health. And this is a great time to stock up on it. You should be optimistic, but also be prepared. Now, today, I want to talk about several things that have been bothering me over the last couple of days as we look at the transition. We've got Barack Obama saying that he's going to put in a flurry of new rules for us. Forget the fact that hopefully Donald Trump is going to reduce these. I remember during the campaign, it was just back the beginning of October, that Donald Trump was talking about how he's going to reduce probably 70% of the regulations, he said. And the Hill took him to task, and they said, no, you can't do that. You can't just cut regulations that easily. Going back to October 7th, they said the issue of regulation has been so thoroughly politicized that it's not surprising if members of the public think that issuing a regulation or rescinding one is something that a president can do with the stroke of a pen. No, I think you need a phone, too, don't you, Obama? You need a pen and a phone to do that kind of stuff. They say regulations often get confused with executive orders, which can actually be done away with quite easily. Oh, really? Okay, well, let's talk about the regulations. And I think this is a key thing to understanding how much power has been concentrated in the office of president and why it is such a bad thing. And hopefully this is going to change under Trump. If not, hopefully at least he will remove some of the burdensome regulations that have been placed on us. He'll take those away. And whether they've been done by executive order or whether they've been done by the orders of the massive bureaucracy. Remember the Declaration of Independence where they said that the king had swarms of officers our people and eating out their substance? Remember when we rebelled against taxation without representation? Well, we have all that in these bureaucracies. We not only have taxation without representation, we not only have swarms of officers who harass us, who eat out our substance, but we also have regulation without any representation. We have legislation without representation, not just taxation. Understand that these regulatory agencies are little empires unto themselves. They write their own laws. They're given broad powers by the Congress, which has abdicated its power to these regulatory agencies. And they work under and with the president as an extension of executive orders. You need to start thinking of the EPA and the IRS and all these other regulatory agencies. You need to start thinking of them as an extension of executive orders because that's truly what they are. And so we should get to the bottom of this. It's one of the reasons why as I look at all these different cabinet picks that Trump is doing, in many regards, I just look at it as like, I just wish he would shut down that entire organization as opposed to putting somebody in front and top of it and continuing on with it. But they talk about, and they said this back in October 7th, this editorial by The Hill said Trump can't really cut these regulations because it takes a very long time to do it. It's a very time-consuming process, they said. Proponents of regulation often complain about just how hard it is to get a new regulation. Oh, yeah. That's why we have 80,000 plus pages of them every year because it's so difficult. No, it's not hard. But they do drag the process out. They say, for better or worse, it takes roughly the same amount of time to get rid of one. Years, they say. First, the agency has to propose a regulation. Then they open the proposal for public comment. Then if it has a large economic impact, then we have to do studies about that. Then once they get all this stuff back, they have to respond to the comments, redo their analysis, and so forth. And then they're going to get sued. So they say one of the key things, and this is what you have to understand, the purpose of regulations, the purpose of the FDA, the purpose of all these other regulatory agencies is if an industry has spent millions of dollars coming into compliance with the regulation, they're not likely to be happy that new competitors can now enter the market without complying with those regulations. You understand? Then when we look at stuff like the Dodd-Frank bill, that was not really set up to control the banks. If they wanted to control the banks, they'd break them up, which is what Bill Clinton did. He created the too big to fail bank mergers, the first one being Nation Bank and Bank of America. And then they all started merging. Everybody said, we're going to wind up with 5 or 6 banks that are huge. And that's what we did. And they were too big to fail, too big to jail. We've seen that type of thing over and over again. When you look at the FDA, what do? They put these regulations in here so that they can keep other people from getting into competition with them. That's the whole purpose of this. That's why you have regulatory capture. They speak of that. They take control of the FDA and their regulators to keep their competitors at bay. Look at what happens to somebody who wants to start a new car company, for example. You had this guy, the only person I've seen that has seriously tried to start a new car company, I think since DeLorean, is this guy Elio. And what did he have to do? He had to go to something that had 3 wheels so he could escape some of the onerous regulations that were put in there by Detroit to keep competition out. They don't want new competition. So he had to create a car that wasn't technically a car. And we'll see how that goes. But that's the purpose of these regulations. And so when I look at this, I look at this article that came out of the Christian Science Monitor. It was linked on the Drudge Report. Federal agencies are pushing a flurry of midnight rulemaking under Obama. They talk about how, well, the White House is reviewing as many as 98 final regulations that could be implemented before Trump takes office, including 17 with an estimated annual economic impact of $100 million or more. That would be each, folks. Each of those 17 regulations would have an impact of more than $100 million. See, that's the issue. And that's what needs to stop. We need to have something that is going to, we need to have a revolution. It needs to be based on the Constitution. And the thing that I'm concerned about with the Trump, as we've seen now, there's been so much pushback against Romney. Kellyanne Conway is talking about how the masses of people are furious about this. Others have spoken out against it, like Huckabee, like Gingrich, that it's a betrayal if he were to do this. I think it's a big mistake. I think we need somebody who is going to not push back against Donald Trump's agenda, what he ran on. And I don't really understand. I understand reaching out to the other side, trying to get a consensus, but when you pick somebody like your chief of staff, like Priebus, or you pick somebody like Romney, or even worse, Petraeus, as they're now talking about, when you do that, you have to understand that what he's doing when he puts these people in as chief of staff, as Secretary of State, he's really kind of running a 3-legged race with these people. And that's kind of hard to do when the other guy is desperately trying to go in the other direction. When these guys are dyed-in-the-wool globalists who are going to fight you on these key issues, that's a real problem. And when we look at this, I want to look at this in just a moment. Some of the other things I'm going to talk about in this hour, just to give you an idea, and if I don't get to all of these things, I'll be talking about them on the Nightly News tonight where I'm hosting. I'll also be talking about the world leaders' reactions to Fidel Castro. There's an amazing Twitter hashtag that is really hilarious that came out of response to Pierre Trudeau's eulogy for Fidel Castro, people making fun of that. But I also want to give you just my personal take on it. Somebody who grew up in Florida, who was a child during the Cuban Missile Crisis, who knew a lot of liberty-loving Cubans. Also, I want to talk about Jill Stein and this attack, not only on Trump, but on the Electoral College, and why the Electoral College is so important. And I want to get to all that. But let's go back to Petraeus here for a moment. Understand where Petraeus is coming from as we see the news articles that today he is going to be going to Trump Tower to talk to Donald Trump about Secretary of State. Also, Mitt Romney is going to be coming back again tomorrow. Hopefully that's going to be a meeting where Donald Trump says, sorry, it looks out like the engagement is off. Can I have the ring back? Okay. I hope that's what's going to be behind this Romney meeting. But it concerned me very much to see David Petraeus there. Why? Why? Because David Petraeus has been a strong supporter and ally of Hillary Clinton. He was during the election. He is not only a frequent, but a regular attendee of Bilderberg. He's one of the inner circle of Bilderberg. That's where he hangs out. Okay, he's an emerging leader amongst the globalists. Okay, this guy Petraeus is a nascent Kissinger or nascent Brzezinski. We do not want to have them take over the Trump presidency by having somebody like this in that position. He's also a Wall Street crony capitalist. He also is a gun control advocate. He's also a supporter of total surveillance state. Remember when he was bragging about how your appliances, the Internet of Things, all these things are going to be spying on you very soon, and he was happy about that? Stay with us. We're going to be right back, and we're going to talk about what's behind all of this. We'll be right back.
Well, Black Friday week has basically come and gone, but we're going to have the specials for one more day where there was a huge special each day, like 50% off on colloidal silver at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, all the specials that were one day only are back on this one day only, but all the specials together. So if you missed out on any of the specials, if you missed out on a chance to help fund the InfoWar, the final day of Black Friday week at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. And again, thank you for funding the true tip of the spear in the fight for human liberty. We could not have done it without you, and I want to salute you for your support, your prayers, the action you've taken. Every race, color, and creed, we are all red-blooded humans together, and I love you. And from myself and my family to yours, I pledge on the eternal altar of God absolute resistance over every form of tyranny over the mind of men, to paraphrase Thomas Jefferson. You've got my commitment. I mean, it's bad, folks. I had a guy brandish a gun at me at a restaurant Saturday morning. Before that, someone came over and said, it's on video. We were doing a live stream and said, F you, Alex Jones. They are flipping out. Ward Moncton, what do you make of this? I mean, do you agree with what I'm saying, or where do you see this going?
I think this is very, very typical of the left now. They are not, in any real sense, Democrats. They don't believe in the popular vote unless by their power in the media they can manipulate it, and of course by massive voter fraud. Even that wasn't big enough to get it for them this time. And of course they're furious. And what should we do about this? What we've got to do is to make it clear to them that they either shape up and sharpen up and get back with democracy and start understanding that the will of the people in a republic that is democratic is sovereign, or they can get out of politics altogether and go and grow vegetable marrows. They can't pretend that they like democracy when they don't. And one of the reasons why they lost is that people are beginning to realize that the left hate democracy because every so often, as it has this time, it allows somebody else a turn at the levers of government.
They want to go full authoritarian, which tells me
it also shows one thing from which you should take both comfort and pride, Alex, and that is that you did make a material difference to the vote. You're speaking out in favor of freedom, okay. As you know, I tease you from time to time because you go over the top. But given the pressure under which we on the centre-right are being put, one forgives you that. But you and those like you, like Matt Drudge and so forth, I like Steve Bannon, of course, and Breitbart, who had the courage to buck the trend of universal Marxism in the media, the Marx stream media, and instead to give an alternative view, which won't necessarily always be congenial to China. Well, that's what freedom is all about. And because of you, Alex Jones, and because of InfoWars and Prison Planet, because of these enterprises of freedom that you have set up as a voice of freedom, it is because of this voice of freedom that freedom has found itself again, and that's why Trump got elected. So don't feel upset that they attack you. That when they attack you, then they're paying you the compliment of saying it was you that helped to put Trump where he is. And you can bet that Steve Bannon knows this, that Trump knows this, that people like Myron Ebell, you know, the team he's gathering around him, they know this.
Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host. I was just talking about the possibility that Donald Trump might choose General Petraeus as a Secretary of State and not Mitt Romney. Would that be better? I think it might be even worse than Mitt Romney, and I'm not at all a supporter of Mitt Romney for that position. Let me tell you. Think about what the duties of the Secretary of State are, okay? Secretary of State is going to be essentially the president's eyes and ears abroad. He's going to be involved in war and peace and determining whether or not we're going to go to war with people, or we're going to have peace, or we're going to have more interventionist wars. He's also going to be involved with the trade treaties. He's going to be involved with the climate treaties, as we've seen with John Kerry. Is this going to be somebody that is going to be on Donald Trump's side, that is going to further the policies that Donald Trump ran on and got elected on, the policies that people voted for him to put in place? Think about General Petraeus. Think about the fact that he is part of the inner circle at Bilderberg. Now, there are people who go to Bilderberg and they'll go just once and they'll look at it. It's like, I'm not going back there. Again, that was Margaret Thatcher. She went, she criticized them, and within a few months, they removed her as prime minister from the UK. But someone like Petraeus, who has now embedded himself in Wall Street crony capitalism, he's with KKR. He is, I think, an emerging Kissinger, an emerging Brzezinski. This guy is thoroughly a globalist. He is not going to be with Donald Trump in terms of fighting these global trade treaties. I can tell you that. He's probably not going to be with him on the climate treaties as well. He is somebody who has continually supported these kind of interventionist wars. So it's not going to be a pullback against our involvement in unnecessary wars either to have somebody like this. And so I hope that Donald Trump realizes that he doesn't really need the Republicans, and he certainly doesn't need Democrats like Petraeus. Yeah, Petraeus really is a Democrat. Look back at the beginning of September. We had this article from Politico saying Clinton was going to convene a meeting at the time with Petraeus and other national security experts. She was going to have him in, along with former Homeland Security Chief Michael Chertoff. These are people who supported her during the election. Understand, Petraeus was a supporter, along with people like Michael Morrell, the former deputy CIA director, who was a big league critic, okay? And he openly endorsed Hillary. David Petraeus said a lot of very kind things about Hillary Clinton. And, of course, in this meeting, we also had Janet Napolitano, John Allen, who was also involved in the sex scandal with General Petraeus. What happened with General Petraeus in terms of the emails? It was also the next month, in October 22nd, we saw a report from Fox News. We want to talk about this email scandal here, that Petraeus essentially had a leak of classified information, just like Hillary Clinton did. There were 1,000, and this is key, 1,000 Clinton-Petraeus emails that were missing from the records sent to state and the FBI records show. So the issue is this. We've got General Petraeus, who was convicted, and we've got an article here as to who was worse in terms of security issues. Clinton or Petraeus? Hillary Clinton or Petraeus? Well, there's two ways to look at this. But the bottom line is, why would we be embracing somebody who has shown open contempt for national security? We have lost virtually all of our freedoms in the last 15 years in the name of national security. It has become a religion. And yet we give the Petraeus and Clinton pass. And although he was convicted of a misdemeanor, even though he had multiple felonies, we let these people get a pass and then we give them rewards of letting them run for president or making them Secretary of State. I just don't get it. Here he has 1,000 Clinton-Petraeus emails. So you might say, well, you know, what is this? Why is he meeting and the headliner for a security meeting for Hillary Clinton, trying to get up her credentials to show that she's really tough on ISIS? Well, it's because they have a deep, long relationship. Say roughly 1,000 emails between Hillary Clinton and General Petraeus were thought to be missing from the 30,000 emails provided by Clinton's team to the State Department in December 2000. According to, back in October 22nd, newly FBI investigative files, additional documents obtained through a federal watch show that Clinton had directed Petraeus to send her emails at her personal address. So she told David Petraeus, send these classified documents to me at my personal address. And he did. He's no better than Hillary Clinton. And, of course, they go on to say that this was heavily redacted FBI interview summary from August the 17th, 2015. A State Department employee from the Office of Information Programs and Services, which handled showed how these records are apparently not among those that were turned over by Hillary Clinton. They say they had CENTCOM records that showed approximately 1,000 records, but hey, we can't find those in the ones that were turned over to the FBI. See, they're missing, okay? Understand that. So they hid those emails. What were they hiding? Stay with us. We'll be right back.